We're back. Conscious Living Part 2. So, for those of you that weren't with us last week, I talked about this journey that I've been going on in getting ready to go into the ministerial program and some different books that we've been reading. And one came across my desk called Conscious Living by Gay Hendricks. And for those of you, again, that weren't with us last week, Gay Hendricks and his wife have created an amazing organization called the Hendricks Institute. They are licensed psychologists and have been doing it for a long, long time. Written tons of books, done tons of workshops. Really powerful, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human beings. And in going through this book, as I was talking about the idea of talking about the inner game of living, all of a sudden I started reading this thing and I'm like, well, why don't I just talk about the book? Right? And so we started the conversation campfire style. That's me sitting out here on a chair and just saying, hey, let's get real and have a conversation, right? So we started the conversation last week and we're going to finish the conversation up this week. So in the book, we talk about these 5 required lessons of conscious living. And last week we talked about the first lesson, and by the way, these are not in the order that they're in the book. But we talked about one of the first ones was feel all of your feelings deeply. In other words, don't run from them, don't hide from them, don't deny them, allow them to come in, allow them to go through and do what they need to in your body, and then ultimately allow them to be expressed so that the energy doesn't get stuck inside of our body, because that's what normally happens for a lot of us. And then what happens is, well, then you wind up getting sick, and then it causes all kinds of different problems, not only physically, but in relationships and in your finances and in life in general, right? That's kind of how it works. So we spent some time talking about that one lesson. Seek your true self. And really what that came down to was just, do you really know who you are? Do you know what you like? Do you know what you don't like? Do you know the things that make you happy? Do you know the things that make you sad? Do you know what you need to do to take care of yourself when you're having a bad day? Do you? Have you really spent the time to figure out who this amazing being that came down to this planet Earth at this point in time is on a really deep level? Like, really ask yourself those questions. Some of us get so busy chasing everything, from our education to our jobs to our careers to our families to everything else, but we forget one small character in that whole thing called life, and it's called ourselves. So the second lesson is called seek your true self. The third lesson, life is fullest when we're most true to ourselves. Every single one of us are an expression of the divine. So the question is that expression being lived through you? Are you living it to the highest level of your ability? For some people, it might look like this. For some people, it might look like what Mark does, or what Tony does, or Gregory, or Dale, or Denise, or Lynn, or Jerry, or Charles, or whoever, right? So we all have this expression that's coming out of us that wants to be expressed. And are we doing that? Are we living that? And again, maybe it's just as simply as going for a walk and writing a song that maybe only you and the universe hears. Maybe. There's no right or wrongs here. As long as the expression is coming through you, that's the only thing that matters. And that's what we talked about last week. So, lesson number 4. Should not be too strange to people at Unity, I would think. In fact, it made me smile when I saw it. We're all made of the same thing. We're all made of the same stuff, right? I love Marianne Williamson's quote, "There is no they, only us. We are part of a human fellowship called the human race. We all hurt the same, we all love the same, we all bleed the same. We all need understanding and care. We can't separate ourselves from one another. We are all part of the same vast sea of love, one indivisible, divine mind." We're all one. In the book, Gay says, at least 500 years before the Christian era began, a remarkable notion surfaced in the Mediterranean and in the Far East. Later, we would have read it in the Bible as, the kingdom of heaven is within. But in an earlier form, the idea was expressed by Epictetus like this. Now, this is going back into the way, way ancient days of Greece, way back when. Listen to this and see if it doesn't sound familiar, like you may have heard this before somewhere. You are a distinct portion of the essence of God and contain part of God in yourself. Wonder where we've heard that one before. Hundreds of years later, the prophet of Islam would say it like this: those who know themselves know God. Wherever we stand and wherever we go, we carry the universe and its divine essence with us. This is a radical idea. From the Latin radix, meaning root. So in a sense, we all have the same root. Becomes it reorganizes our perception of ourselves at our very core. Changes everything. Because I don't know about you, but where I was born and raised and what I was told by my parents, by society, by religion, was none of the above. It wasn't. It's not the way it worked out for me. I don't know about you, but that was my reality. And it's taken a whole lifetime to understand who and what I truly am. Right? He goes on to say, the fourth lesson says that when we go deeply enough into who we are and who others are, we will find our organic connection with divinity and theirs. Oh, so wait a minute. If I slow down enough, if I go deep enough, what happens is I understand and find my own divinity, and then when I find my own divinity, then I get to look at everybody around me, and I get to see their divinity. Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. He goes on to say, when our conditioning is cleared away, that's a very important part of the sentence. When our conditioning, in other words, when we remove all the garbage that was piled on top of us, and we get down to the heart of who and what we are. When our conditioning is cleared away, what remains at the core is the divine essence of the universe floating within us. And the same thing that's floating in me is the same thing that's floating in you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. It's the same thing. He goes on to say, go inward to taste the divine. He didn't say look out here, all around here, although you can eventually. But when you start your journey, go inward to taste the divine. Here. Not everywhere else, go here. Go inward to taste the divine, not outward towards the synthesized experience of others. Like, it's not a bad idea to listen to and learn for a while, but eventually the spiritual journey requires you to get out of your head and actually make a journey inward so that you can have the experience of what it's like to connect with God, with your divinity, which all of the masters, all of the great teachers have talked about. Take some education at first, got to figure a few things out, but after that, here's what you do. You take this stuff, you set it down, and then you go, hey, God, you know what would be really cool? Why don't you and I have our own little thing going on here? Why don't we have our own experience? Why don't, and I said this prayer when I was 19 years old, God, I don't want to learn about you through a book or a man or a woman or anybody else. I want the real deal. I want the experience of what you're really like, not through somebody else's lips, but through my experience. my life was changed forever. My life was changed forever. You can learn about this stuff until you're blue in the face. Charles and I, sitting there having a conversation. We both love to read. We both love to study. We both love history. All of it. And I could sit there and read books until I'm blue in the face. You can do the same thing with spirituality. But the trap comes in when you don't take it further and you don't have this experience of what it's like to sit down and get quiet and connect with the divine. And then let the divine do its dance with you. The divine is longing to do a dance with you. Are you willing to dance? Are you willing to let it come in? Or are you stuck up in your head and not allowing it to go any further than that? And those are the questions to ask ourselves, to have that experience. Because I want to just share this with you from my own perspective. It's real. It is real. Like there is this thing that goes on. In the morning, I get up and I take my dogs for a walk at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing I do when I step out that door is I say, good morning, Mother Earth. Good morning, Father Sky. Good morning to the divine. Good morning, God. Let me be connected this day. Let me remember who I am, and let me remember who you are. Let me have that experience of you dancing through me as I experience this day, in the good and the bad. Let me understand that no matter what shows up this day, it's exactly an opportunity for me to expand my own growth and my own divinity. Let me have that. And then as I'm walking my dogs down the street, I'm telling good morning to the trees. I'm saying hi to the grass. I'm saying hi to life as I look up. The stars are out. The moon's out. And I sit there and I take it all in. And I'm grateful. I'm connecting. I'm doing this dance. That's what I'm doing. He goes on to say that as he's working with clients, what he does is he invites them to go inward with their attention toward the source of their feeling rather than outward. This approach is based on the fourth lesson. It's saying that you can trust yourself because ultimately you will encounter the divine if you take your attention far enough inward. So here's my question. Have you taken your journey far enough inward? And there's no judgment. Please, 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 no judgment, no shame, no blame. We don't do that here in any way, shape, or form. We don't. It's just a simple question that you can ask yourself, hey, am I really taking this far enough? Have I gone deep enough to create the connections, to create this dance, to let the divine really do its wonder when I'm walking through life and experiencing that? Am I doing that? Is that really what I'm doing? So I want to share with you this process that he takes people through that I just think is so beautiful because, again, what does it do? It takes us even deeper into our own journey, if you will. So suppose that you have a pain in the neck. You can treat it as an interloper, an offender, a plot against you. Or you can treat it as something to learn from, indeed a friend. Either way, you can take a pain reliever, but in the second instance, you can learn something at the same time. Let's say that you take the learning path. So in other words, whatever shows up, you decide, I can either resist this or I can accept it, is really what he's saying, right? You begin by wondering about the pain. Well, put it there. When did I first notice it? Was it when I first awoke, or was it just after the unexpected phone call from my boss telling me that I messed up once again? Questions like these sound ridiculous to many people. I can tell you from treating hundreds of people with chronic pain that a particular type of person who thinks these questions are ridiculous is precisely a person with chronic pain. People who suffer from chronic pain will be the first to tell you that their pain has nothing whatsoever to do with them. Nothing. They absolutely hate the idea that their pain could be caused by something that they're doing. The particular hate the idea that anything to do with their failure to express their feelings in a common sense ways. They love the idea that their headaches are caused by cloudy weather, negative ions, yeast, biorhythms, bad genes, and several hundred other attributions I've collected from pain patients over the years. They love the idea that their pain can be cut out, rubbed out, numbed out, cracked out, any kind of out. Get it out. They don't care. The cosmic paradox here, of course, is that this very way of thinking, my pain is wrong and must be banished, is exactly why they hurt in the first place. Did you hear that? Did you really hear that? I'm going to read it again. The cosmic paradox here, of course, is this very way of thinking, my pain is wrong. How many times do you get hurt or something aches and you go, oh, something's wrong. This is wrong. This should not be happening. This should not be happening. And we judge it, right? That my pain is wrong and must be banished is exactly why they hurt in the first place. But you decide not to think that way with your pain in the neck. You adopt a different view, suggested by the fourth lesson of conscious living, that there might even be divinity in this pain. There might be something here for me? Really? You could use something so mundane as your very path to the divine. So in other words, whatever's showing up, might want to take a look at it. Might be something there for you. Maybe something there that could liberate you. There could be freedom on the other side of that resistance. And the reason that's showing up is because you want to be free. Because your soul is asking for something more. It's asking for something bigger. Your soul knows who you are. Your soul knows what you're capable of doing. And therefore, these things show up as a way to give you an opportunity if you choose, and you don't have to, but to give you an opportunity if you choose to step in an even higher version of yourself. Ruh-roh. Right? So you inquire into it, you play with it, turning your head this way and that. You discover an aha. It's connected to a pulling sensation between your right shoulder blade and your spine. Rather than stopping there with a so what and a soda pop, you inquire further. You play with the connection between the pain in your neck, no, not my neck, and that little place near the shoulder blade. Suddenly, a thought leaps into your mind. The pain started the night before when you saw a news report about a tragedy you felt helpless to do anything about. You realized that you felt angry about the harm done to the innocents, a bomb falling on a school bus, but you didn't know what you could do about it, so you forgot about it. But your body didn't. It remembered all night long and woke up before you did to remind you. As you made this connection, you realize the neck pain is fading, but you don't stop there. You continue to explore the sensations, and then you get the big payoff. You feel connected to those innocents on that bus. You open to your heartfelt connection with the wounded innocents on the bus and the wounded innocents inside of you. Your pain is their pain, and their pain is yours. You realize there is no such thing as separation in this world or any other. There is no separation. You realize further that pain is caused by separation, trying to pretend that we're different from or other than something else. Not only is your neck pain gone, but you have replaced it with your original cosmic connection to the world. We are all one and divine. Even neck pain is an expression of the divine if we know how to tap its spiritual potential. So that means that whatever's going on in our life, and it's showing up, that there may be an opportunity that it's there to potentially liberate us. And my answer is yes. If we can take a deep breath and we don't judge it, and we don't freak out, and we don't go running away in fear. And we just sit there and say, friend, what are you here to teach me? What is it that my soul could be wanting to learn that could basically launch me into being the next version of who and what I am? And all it takes is consciousness. It takes the courage to sit down for a little bit of time, to be with yourself, to hear what your soul is trying to tell you. And it's probably just something so simple and so easy, and yet we run from it. We hide from it because we're afraid that what's in here could be so frightening and so scary, and yet if you go deep enough, you'll understand the only thing that's there is you and your soul and the divine. And that's it. That's all that's there, right? Lesson number 5, let go of the uncontrollable. He goes on to say, how do we cut through the morass of information that comes at us all day long? How do we make sense of all the 1,001 moments of thought, feeling, and action that make up our day? The human mind, if unchecked and unfocused, will leap back and forth between fantasy and reality, past and present, hundreds of times an hour. It will chew obsessively on some irrelevant data that has no possibility of making you happier or more creative, while completely overlooking an obvious possibility that has genuine value. The ancients recognized this problem and came up with strategies to deal with it. Epictetus, the Stoic, found the following principle so important that he opened his manual of conscious living with it. He went on to say that the secret of happiness is knowing that there are some things you can control and some things that you can't. There's some things that you can control, and there's some things that you can't. Why do we obsess so much with things we can't control and spend so much time and spend so much energy on something and some things that we have no ability to control? Why do we do that over and over and over again? Right? He goes on to say, our lives begin to change when we take full responsibility for the venture, our life. And for this venture, we need all of our resources. This requires us to let go of focusing on things that are out of our control and bend our awesome energies toward those things we can control. Take that energy that's being wasted on things that you can't control and change it. This isn't a big deal, folks. It's not that hard. Just start paying attention to what you're doing with your energy on stuff that you have no ability to control. Right? Byron Katie, any Byron Katie fans out there? Love me some Byron. If you want real control, drop the illusion of control. You don't have it anyway. Let life have you. I love that. Let life have you. It does anyways. You're just telling yourself the story on how it doesn't. Bryant McGill, when you let go of the illusion of control, you begin to free fall towards your destiny of grand reunion with your original self. A self uncorrupted by the world's false lessons of fear and control. And we let go of them. Right? So what can we control? Any thoughts? What can we control? Choices? I agree. Choices. Anything else? Attitudes? Absolutely. Love it. Yeah. I'm noticing a little common thing in terms of the comments on what we can control, but I'm not going to give away the answer. Lynn might have it. Lynn's holding her hands over and pulling them towards herself. She's pulling them towards herself. She's pulling them in. She's pulling them in. Right? Eric Butterworth, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only thing that matters are the things that happen in you. The things that happen in you. He shares a story I want to share with you. A woman described an experience on the subway one morning on her way to work. She boarded the car at her station and, seeing an empty seat, walked resolutely toward it. Just as she was about to sit down, another woman coming from another door, knocking her flying in the struggle for the seat. The victim turned on the now seated woman in a rage. She called her an animal and other things she later regretted. The whole episode left her in a turmoil of anger at the woman and guilt at her own loss of composure. She said, "But what can I do when someone acts like this? How can I keep myself in the spirit of love and harmony when everywhere I go I run into this kind of behavior? What's wrong with the world anyway?" It's one way to look at it, right? Can you identify with this experience? Instead of a subway, it could be a bus or a conflict with another car while driving. It could be a conflict with somebody in your family or neighborhood or a coworker in your offer. Instead of a seat, it could be a promotion or a grant or a coveted prize. So let's think about it as if it were your experience. Jesus said, "What is that to thee? Follow me." That doesn't mean to be blindly indifferent to what goes on in the world around you, but it does mean that before you try to understand or even correct conditions out there, keywords, out there, you need to first get yourself consciously established in the flow of life. Connected is what I call it. It would seem obvious that the other person was out of the flow of love and harmony, but that is his or her responsibility to live with. The incident is most certainly external, but the reaction is completely your own. The reaction. How you react, what you do with it when something shows up, is completely your own. If you really knew that your behavior in the face of your struggle for the seat indicated a red light warning of a crisis of consciousness, you might have bowed low before the woman and said, perhaps not literally, but at least figuratively within yourself, "Thank you." Think about that. Could you imagine driving down the road, somebody cutting you off, and then you go, "Thank you. Thank you." I know, not easy. Everyone's going, I get it. I get it. All right? So again, I just want to repeat the key with the word. The incident is most certainly external, but the reaction is completely your own. So then, really what Butterworth is saying, and I really think what Gay Hendricks is saying, is that really what it comes down to, is that the only thing that we control is our reaction to what is happening outside of ourselves. Or another way to put it is, the only thing that we can really control is our inner experience. That is the only thing that, should we choose, that we can do something about. That's it. If you want to do the work, and you want to do everything that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore talked about, everything that Jesus talked about, all the masters, everything else, it's inner work. You can choose to do that. And if you do the inner work, then guess what happens? You change your reality. You change. Change the way you show up. You change your relationships. You change everything about your life. And that's what they did. And then they spent their lives going around and telling everybody what they did. That's what happened, right? And so, what I want to do now is take you on a little bit of a journey. And I'm going to have you get quiet for a minute. And here's how we're going to do this, okay? I want you to think of something that's going on right now. And please don't make it like you're 10, like, something major, but something that's got your attention. And maybe it's had your attention for a little while, okay? We're going to take you through this process, and just remember, compassion. There's no judgment here. None. There's love. There's understanding. There's forgiveness. And it's this idea that we're just going to bring this thing up. And we're just going to ask ourselves a few questions and see if something doesn't come up. So if you want to close your eyes, maybe take a deep breath in and let it out. And then take another deep breath in and let it out. And just become completely present. Completely present. Connect with yourself. Connect with the energy in this room, even if you're watching us online. And connect with your divinity. And now very lovingly, compassionately, I just want you to bring to mind whatever it is that's going on for you. This one situation that's been going on. Again, there's no judgment, it just is what it is. I just want you to imagine. Think about it. Think about how you feel about it. Think about what this experience has been like for you from a very gentle and caring set of eyes. And then just to ask yourself these questions. Am I taking my attention far enough inward? Or am I focused on this outward circumstance or situation? So am I spending more time going inward to understand it, to understand myself? Or am I focusing on what it looks like on the outside? Am I spending enough time to go deep enough within to explore what this could really be about? Can I be willing enough to accept that this could be caused by something I am doing? And if so, what could that be? Or what am I not doing that's causing it? Would you be willing to accept? Can I accept that there might even be divinity within this current situation? That it's really a gift, and it's not meant as some form of punishment or judgment, or that I've done anything wrong, or that I'm just an idiot and I can't figure this thing out. No, 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 no. You're loved. You're in this moment because you're ready. You're ready to step into the next version of who and what you are. And this thing has come as a reminder, and there's a gift here. There's a gift here for you. Are you willing to accept the gift? What could that gift be? What could it be? Maybe it's an opportunity for you to step back into your power. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to forgive yourself or somebody else. Maybe you don't think like you're big enough or you're strong enough to work through this thing. And maybe this is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can. It could be something so simple and so light. And it could be something that's profound. It's not here by mistake. There's something that you wanted to do to become and to understand yourself as more than you've ever been. And just be with that for a moment. And then maybe later on today, when you get a moment, you can sit down and really spend some time with yourself. Because maybe you've never had a chance to really sit down and spend time with this thing, with yourself, and look at it from these different angles, from these different perspectives. Knowing that you loved yourself enough to spend a few moments, here and now, to go past this. To heal it, to embrace it, to thank it for the gift that it is and for the gift that you are. And then when you're ready, you can start to come back to the room, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, open your eyes, and welcome back. Good. Everybody's here. Everybody okay? Any awarenesses, insights, revelations, delusions, dilemmas, paradoxes, confusions? Right? They're all there, aren't they? I hope this has been helpful. I hope that as you spend time, you understand just how incredible you are. Life right now is asking us for a lot. In my opinion, the people that come here and the people that are watching us online and are engaging are being woken up. And the way that we wake up is we've got to be able to look at our own stuff and understand that it really is there so that we can learn from it, so that we can grow from it, and then move on. Don't forget that. It doesn't mean that we have to stay stuck there, folks. It just means letting it come up, acknowledging it, learn what it's there to show us, and then move forward in our own walk, in our own divinity. You're needed right now, more than ever. And it's okay if you got stuff to work on. We all do. We all do. But when Jesus came down here, I really believe that his biggest lesson for everybody was freedom. I don't believe we're ever meant to live stuck. And I'm just going to tell you right now that I've lived stuck in my life. It's not a lot of fun. It's not. And looking back at it now, and I do it very compassionately. There's no judgment, there's no shame. It's just all I needed to do was have the courage to sit down with myself, not run, not be afraid, just address whatever it is that's going on inside of me. And once I do that, the energy is released, I heal, I get to move on, and then I get to do more stuff like this with people like you until the next thing shows up. And the next thing will probably show up, I'm guessing, tomorrow morning. Because that's the way we are. We're expansive. We're these divine, you're divine. You're endless in terms of your expression. You're endless in terms of what you want to do. You're endless in terms of the opportunities that you have before you. But we got work to do, folks. We got work to do. Each and every one of us has work to do. So I hope our discussion over the last 2 weeks has possibly showed you a different way of living life, a conscious way of living, to understand that there's going to be goods, there's going to be bads, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. But deep inside all of this is this amazing thing called your soul that once we connect with, once we experience that, then we're able to walk out the front door at any given time and place, look at life, and just say, bring it. But you're not saying bring it out of fear. You're saying bringing it out of excitement, because you're genuinely excited about what's going to show up. Because even if it doesn't look the way we want it to look, we understand that this must mean, on a soul level, I'm ready to go to the next level. How cool is that? It doesn't necessarily have to happen overnight. But what I promise you, if you'll take some of these little tools and tips that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, your life will start to change. Because you'll start living consciously. You'll start being a conscious being, standing in your divinity, standing in your power, looking at things that are coming up and going, yeah, I got this. Because my soul's in here, I'm connected with all that is, I'm connected to my divinity, to the divine, and I can handle anything. And then we come together, we hold each other's hands, why we laugh, why we cry, and we do it all together. And then we go out and we share that with the world. I think that sounds like fun. Anybody want to join me? I love you guys. God bless.